Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. We'll just begin in 2 minutes. I see a lot of people logging on. Talk to you in 2 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We will just begin in 1 minute. Thanks very much. Perhaps Brian and Luke, just mute your mic when not speaking, and we can unmute it when we're on. Thanks. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon from Dublin, Ireland, that is. Delighted to be joined by over 100 people from many continents across the world, and welcome to this ECR Community webinar, which is to promote the launch of Category Management publication released by ECR Community 2 weeks ago, entitled Category Management Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow, an ECR Community Review of Current Practices in Category Management 2020. My name is Declan Carolan, along with Tomas Martok of ECR Czech and Slovak Republic. I'm co-chair of ECR Community, and I'm also general manager of ECR Ireland. And we're delighted to welcome you to this launch of what is quite a major publication, we think, and a milestone in the history of category management. As I said, I'm part of ECR Community, and I suppose one of the great misunderstood acronyms around the world is, what does ECR mean and what does ECR stand for? And let me just give you a 2-slide, very brief introduction into the world of ECR. And one of the things I'd like to clear up first off is ECR is 2 different things. It's a collaboration model, and it is the name for a group of national associations. And by that collaboration model, we mean working together to fulfill consumer wishes better, faster, and at less cost, and more increasingly in a more sustainable way. And our particular focus areas are demand side and supply side. A huge focus on working together, both internally and externally. That means within your own companies and between trading partners and service providers. And also in people development. And ECR has always had a great focus on upskilling and improving the knowledge base of all of those who take part. And within many countries in the world, there is an ECR National Association. And sometimes their governance can vary from country to country, but ultimately they're all about better collaboration between trading partners and bringing these trading partners together on neutral grounds so they can discuss, debate the different processes of the day, whether that's demand side, supply side, enabling technologies, connected business information, and talking about emerging trends that occur around the world. And you'll see from this list, the group of ECR Nationals from around the world is quite extensive, where we have members in South America, Europe, Asia, and also increasingly input from trade associations such as AIM and Eurocommerce. It's important to note that we're a not-for-profit global association, and ECR Community's role is really the umbrella group for all of these ECR nationals to provide a support network and a forum for all of our nationals to interact. And the secret of ECR really is it's a bottom-up association. Every ECR national you'll see here has retailers, manufacturers and service providers as their members in their local ECR. And you can begin to see the power of ECR when we aggregate this all together, because many retailers are single country operators and they don't feel as though they need to be part of either a regional, whether it's European, Asian, South American association, or indeed a global association, but they very much can contribute to a national association. And when we aggregate up these national associations and put peers in front of peers, it brings great power to the reach of ECR. And hence, when we're focusing on the output of this category management publication, it really was utilizing and harnessing that great breadth and depth of networking that we have within ECR. We've a long history of producing output. On supply side, you'll see on the screen 4 seminal publications varying from vendor managed inventory to out of stocks, collaborative logistics, and sell more, waste less from the ECR Retail Loss Group, which is headed by Colin Peacock and John Fontaine. And over the years, I think ECR has provided the milestone of publications on category management. In 1997, the Category Management Best Practices Report. In 2001, Day-to-Day Category Management, and in 2011, the Consumer and Shopper Journey Framework. I'm delighted that 2 of the main contributors of those 3 publications, Dr. Brian Harris and Luke Demeulenaere, have been involved in this publication that we have that we're talking about today. And Brian and Luke were part of the Editorial Committee, along with Birgit, Francoise and Antonella, representing ECR associations, David from dunnhumby, Claudio from ECR Brazil, and Shay from ECR Community. And we set ourselves the task and the objective of producing some output that will move category management on from the last publication in 2011 and embrace everything and all the challenges which category management faces today. So our output was this 200-page review, and we had a clear objective: to build a community platform to help the category management practitioner and the manager to deal with the massive speed of change that is impacting the marketplace today, to give both a historic and a future view on the methodology for how to go to market as a retailer or as a product manufacturer, and to provide food for thought to all who have an interest in the business of value creation with the consumer and with the shopper. So instrumental and fundamental to the publication of the review was dividing it into these 4 sections. We assembled some of the leading global experts in category management and shopper behavior to contribute inside articles, including Dr. Brian Harris, Luke Demeulenaere, Ken Hughes, David Chancho, and Claudio Chapsky. We included groundbreaking reports from ECR community associations in France, in Germany, and Italy, to contribute inside to illustrate the collaborative role ECR can play domestically, and how really aggregating and working together within those local environments can add value. The review brought together a truly representative mix of companies of all different sizes, from SMEs to international corporations, including 14 case studies from such companies in Asia, Europe, North America, and South America. And the centerpiece to this review are those case studies from these retailers and manufacturers, highlighting the role of category management at each step of the consumer shopper journey and representing real examples of how category management is currently being used to drive growth around the world. All these case studies are presented according to a common template, and that's important. It allows the reader to put into context the experience, the depth, the breadth, and the scale of each initiative from the outset, and therefore allows the reader to benchmark one case to another, and also to assess the relevance of every case to their own domestic situation. Essential to the future of category management is effective utilization of enabling technologies. So the final section of the review focuses on relevant technologies and service providers, and ultimately we're out to show how category management capabilities will continue to deliver maximum competitive advantage as we go forward. So the objectives of today's webinar, it's really to describe the purpose of this important ECR initiative and how it was completed. To present the structure and review and its contents, to describe the key developments that have driven the evolution and contribution of category management through 3 industry phases over the last 30 years, to offer recommendations for retailers and manufacturers to continue to win with category management in the future, to encourage you to study and to share the report. And we do mean study. This is quite a significant report. And to invite you to participate in what we're calling hashtag ECR Catman Network to continue to share category management knowledge and experience. So let me just explain. Today really is to promote the launch of the review, to get some insight from particularly Dr. Brian Harris and Luke Demeulenaere, while launching another series of webinars in the new year, where we will go into more in-depth analysis of the individual companies and the individual case studies contained within the review, and hopefully develop some discussion and debate and develop some forum interactivity between all those involved. Now, also essential to our review was the contribution for dunnhumby and Hoffrogge. I'm delighted that we're joined today by David Chancho and Willem Hoffrogge. Good morning to you, David, and good afternoon to you, Willem.
Good morning,
Hello,
welcome.
Everybody. Look, very many thanks for your support in supporting this publication. David, you've quite a history with category management and you were involved in the process from the outset.
Thank you, I was. In fact, I was a student of Dr. Brian Harris all the way back at the University of Southern California. So I think I call myself in a lot of ways the Forrest Gump of the grocery business, present when some really interesting things were being developed, including category management. You know, for me and for us at dunnhumby, it's very clear during these times of pandemic, consumers are clearly telling us that these times are unprecedented, their behaviors are changing in every way. For me as a former retailer, now as a service provider, for manufacturers, we're all standing at the portal of the future and we're never going back to the way it used to be. That's been very clear. Fortunately, we have some very trusted and important frameworks, and foremost among those is category management. In a lot of ways, and my advice to the retailers I talk to is that this is a time to think about going back to the basics. And here we have a category management framework that's really stood the test of time. In fact, it is now newly and again relevant. It's elevated in importance today, right now, along with the new pain points that the pandemic has elevated for both retailers and brands. We can use category management to make sure we're on the right track in this changing world. Now, of course, in these times, and what's different from when I was a student is that we have the gift of consumer data science to help inform category management. And that's what we represent here at dunnhumby. But they go together perfectly hand in hand, again, on this really relevant framework. So we at dunnhumby are very privileged to be able to support this ECR community. We're very honored to be included, to also include some case studies from a couple of our clients. We're very eager to help share this perspective globally. So thank you to you, Declan. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, all of my new friends on the Editorial Committee. And to you, Willem, who I'm delighted to meet just now. So let me hand over to you and say thanks again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say that we're also very happy at Hoffrogge to support this comprehensive publication together with the ECR community and our partners in the case study who are Rewe and Coca-Cola. I'm very much convinced that the ECR community has compiled a document which is an excellent inspiration for all the people working in the field of ECR and especially in category management. I think that sharing best practice within the community is necessary to be best prepared for the future challenges that both retailers and manufacturers face. So in my view, collaboration is key to successfully exploit the full potential shoppers and consumers offer today and tomorrow. So I hope that everybody who studies and reads this document enjoys it and gets the best out of it for his or her own business and driving category growth profitably in the near future. So thank you very much, all of you who participated in this very exciting, interesting document. Thank you very much.
David and Willem, thanks for those words, and thanks to dunnhumby and Hoffrogge for your support. Very much appreciated. Let me welcome, if I can, Dr. Brian Harris. Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good morning from beautiful Los Angeles, California, Declan. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you, Brian. And we've had a great year of discussion, of debate, and collecting case studies and articles and insights around the world. Delighted you're here this morning to bring us through some of the insight contained within the review.
Thank you, Declan. My pleasure. And welcome everybody from wherever in the world you're joining us. We very much appreciate your interest in learning more about what we think is an extremely exciting report. And not only a report, but the program going forward to leverage it, to learn from it. We also think that's something which is really going to be a milestone in the evolution of ECR and category management. So thank you again for joining, and we hope you will. We hope we'll see you in the phases of the program as we roll them out. As Declan said, we entitled the study Category Management Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Some people said that I'm the yesterday, Declan's the today, and Lucas the tomorrow. Well, I'm not sure that's totally right, but just to explain, we thought it was important to look back a little bit at where category management has come, the phases that it's gone through, the contribution it's made to the industry. So we definitely wanted to go back and look at kind of the first phase of category management, which we think was really 1987. That was the first year that I made a presentation on this crazy idea called category management. So I think that was kind of a starting point. And if you look at the history between 1987 and 2010, it brought the consumer into retail marketing, and that's what category management really did. I guess if you want to call it the today era, 2010 to 2020, the focus there was to bring the shopper into retail marketing. As you know, big changes occurred on the shopper front, and so the shopper came into the category management equation, the category management process. The future, as Luke will explain a little later, is really the integration of the two. It's an integration of consumer and shopper marketing, and how that combined knowledge and combined insights can be leveraged into how we manage categories and how we address the needs of today's consumers and shoppers. So that was kind of the logic behind the structure. Let me advance it. Okay, now I like to show this slide because category management, which really emerged back in the early 90s, it really played a pivotal role in the evolution of retail marketing, because prior to that, yes, we were getting better information on what consumers were buying through scanning. We had some applications that built on that as the PC started to come into our toolbox, space management, for example. But category management was the first really strategic process that put a strategy around the management of categories and how that portfolio of categories can be managed better in the context of a total store. Now, that was a fundamental foundation, because from category management, then we started to see new waves. And that's why I relate this to a wave diagram, because category management set the structure for the next wave. And the next wave, we definitely saw category management affecting how stores were designed. As loyalty information started to become more available, we merged that into category management with collaborative CRM techniques, and then shopper-focused category management as we started to get more shopper data, and so on and so forth. So the point here is that category management played a pivotal role in the evolution of retail marketing, because it laid a foundation of consumer marketing into the retail space and into the collaborative space, that really was the key transition from a very much more tactical way of retail marketing and merchandising to more of a strategic process that then drove retail marketing to the next level. Now, if you look at the evolution of our business, there's really three factors that cause things to change and evolve. There are changes in the consumer and shopper, changes in competition, and the arrival of new technologies, data and technology. So if you look at that wave chart I just showed you, the reason why that evolved is some combination of these three things. And in fact, the future is going to be no different. Changes in one or more or all of these areas are going to condition and shape the next wave and the wave beyond that. So I want to just put that up as an overall kind of structure for some of the conversation this morning. Let me talk a little bit about that first period, 87 to 2010, where we brought the consumer into the space. There's no doubt that the big driver of those three circles, the one that was most pivotal in driving this new thinking, was competition. We had the arrival around the world of category killers, the expansion of global discounters, putting tremendous pressure on traditional hypermarkets and supermarkets and drugstores, and there was a need to change. The old methods just simply didn't work. They weren't consumer connected enough, and category management really was born under this new retailing paradigm. That led, as you know, to the development of a global ECR best practice in category management, which was the demand side answer. How do we bring the consumer more central into the decisions of retailers and manufacturers, and collaborate to leverage the skills and expertise of both parties? Three reports. The first one was the US in 1995, and the same model then was adopted in Europe and Latin America, South America, Brazil, and so on around the world. So what was unique about category management, I think, looking back, one single model, one single definition, one single set of principles applied globally. There virtually is nothing else that I can think of in my experience in the industry that did that. You know, we had different local best practices, but global best practice was an unusual thing. The core of it was a process. It's okay to have an idea, a concept, but what really makes any idea come to life is how it's done. A simple process, and this simple 8-step process, which was developed in the early days of category management and still is used today, was a very simple way of thinking about the category as a business and then going through a set of steps to manage the category in a better way, from strategic, category role, for example, through analysis, through KPIs, through strategies and tactics and execution. And this was a very simple, most people understood this. They were able to be trained in how to do it. So category management went from an idea to a business method through the 8-step process. The main focus during this period, of course, was that we started to rethink how we define categories, how we structure our categories, much more from a consumer point of view. So things like the consumer decision tree. How does the consumer make a decision in the category? That had a tremendous impact on a number of things. Bringing new products to market became critical. You know, we now had a new way of saying, where does that new product fit into the category structure? Is there a consumer space for it? And that was a very new and different way to think about the introduction of new products and where to put products on the shelf. Category roles were critical. We never had them before category management. So categories had a role. That then became the differentiation of a category and how we allocate resources across the categories in the store. The growth of retail and store brands. That was a period where the retailer, as they really adopted more marketing skills, the whole idea of developing their own brands for differentiation became a much stronger impetus in how categories were managed. Category strategies drove tactics. Tactics were not simply an end to themselves. They had to be connected to a category strategy. And that was a discipline that category management brought in that first phase. it provided a new platform for collaboration. We could say, okay, in category assessment, what can the retailer do? What can the manufacturer bring to the party? So we had a very clear, or much clearer platform for collaboration. The focus those days was clearly on capturing low-hanging fruit. We had plenty of opportunities to clean up using these new ideas, clean up assortment, clean up our planograms, clean up our promotion programs, manage our pricing more effectively. We were able to capture a lot of low-hanging fruit in that first period because, frankly, we had a new way to look at a category and new tools. Obviously, nothing lasts unless it delivers. There were some very impressive sales and profit increases that happened that really validated that the category management concept was something which had merit. The key challenges in that period, obviously, we had to look at our organization structures and capabilities. The old skills were not necessarily going to be successful in the next era. We had to raise the effectiveness of collaboration, change how collaboration was done. We had to improve our implementation processes. We had better ways of managing categories, but if we didn't execute those better ways in our stores and so on, it would not deliver benefit. And there were limitations of data. We had some data, of course, market data, POS data, some loyalty data was beginning to influence decisions. But in the main, there were limitations of data. We don't have the data, for example, that we have today. Now, the next era, as I mentioned, really began around 2010 and continues today, and we call that today. And that is where the shopper comes into category management, because what happens is, if you look at this wave diagram, the last steps here have really been driven by the expansion, or really the explosion of information on the shopper. And so essentially, the shopper became the driver of how we looked at our categories and how we managed those business units. And we had to, because we had some major changes happening in consumer and shopper values. The old values, which still exist, of course, taste, price, convenience, were now being augmented by new value drivers of health, wellness, product safety, social impact on ecology, shopping experience. These new value drivers became things that had to be delivered through how categories were managed. We also had tremendous changes happening in who the shoppers were. Millennials now, and in the last couple of years, have become the largest shopper segment. They're now being followed by additional generations. So the shopper of old is not the shopper of today. So we had to understand the new shopper, what their values were, what their expectations were, and then factor that into our decisions on how we managed our categories. Okay. There were some challenges in doing that. We had to understand this new generation of shoppers. We had to create a differentiated shopping experience, because these folks wanted different things from their shopping experience. And we had to learn how to respond to new competition. By that I mean these kinds of competitors. The new click shop competitor, Amazon, Alibaba in particular. The integration of the click and brick omni-channel shopping. And of course, the continued expansion, the new generation of discounters around the world that basically began, as always, to put pressure on the traditional retail channels. So essentially then, this new competition has created new challenges, like how do we meet the demands of omni-channel shopping? How do we make that seamless in-store and online? How do we get a return on the expanded pickup and delivery options, which consumers now demand? How do we use more sophisticated database marketing analytics and programs? As we get more data, how do we capitalize and use the new tools to allow us to tap into the insights from this new information? So that's a little bit of kind of where we've come and kind of where we're at. The next phase, obviously, as we said, is the integration of consumer and shopper marketing. At this point, I'm going to hand the stage over to my longtime friend from Bruges, Belgium, Luc Demeulenaere. Luc, yours.
Thank you, Brian. Just all right. So thank you very much for introducing this piece, Brian, and also for putting the key challenges. And good morning or good evening to everybody, wherever you are in the world. From Bruges here in Belgium. Brian is in a hot part of the world. I'm in a cold part of the world, but we've always been very complimentary. So starting with the challenges that Brian put forward, I think we have three key words there that lead us to the future. It's integration, innovation, and personalization. Yes, the need for retailers to differentiate forces them to become a marketeer and to think more about marketing the shopper. And as Brian puts it, a lot of new value drivers have come up. The consumer and the shopper have come up with individual values like health and wellness and ecology, climate, but also convenience. So it's a mix of consumer and shopper new value drivers. And these new value drivers, they are a basis for differentiation. Yes, they, in a sense, give us the basis for manufacturers and retailers to work closer on the consumer and the shopper and to bring information around these two elements together to drive innovation and growth for tomorrow. And the other factor that we hear every day in the news is, you know, this dimension of artificial intelligence. This is very important because as we connect the consumer and the shopper, you know, big data and segmentation will be the preparatory work in our business, in our industry, to prepare for artificial intelligence. Integrated consumer and shopper approach is really what the future is all about. And in a way, you know, the fact that it will be more customer centric and that it will be connecting the consumer and the shopper, it gives us kind of a guarantee that this will lead to a stronger collaboration, more rational around the understanding in a data-based way of how the consumer and the shopper can be one for your brand, for the retail solution that our retailer stands for. And in that sense, the win-win that ECR always was striving after, it's really to see what can my brand do in that innovation for the retailer? How can it support differentiation? And I think this is the opportunity for both manufacturer brand and retailer brand equity development. And the core of this, as you know, Brian put it, category management has always been a pivoting element in creating innovation. Why? Because, you know, shopper marketing, the marketing of the shopper as retailers have to do it. In the end, you know, everything that comes in front of the consumer or the shopper is category management. That kind of decision making around assortment, pricing, promotion, the supply solution, it's the result, you know, of the marketing strategy, the category strategy, and ultimately the category tactics that follow it. So category management is there to stay and is too often put away as something tactical these days, you know, digital marketing and so on. But I think this forces us really to think back to basic, especially in periods here that we have now, like the COVID. The future integrated consumer and shopper marketing. I want to point out in my section here about 4 elements. First of all, you know, the era of shopper marketing in the consumer shopper journey to win the shopping mission. 3 key words there: the marketing of the shopper, the consumer shopper journey, and the shopping mission. We will see in the next couple of slides how these 3 elements really drive big change in how we go to the future. And the way to do it is going to be with data, big data, and lead us to, over time, to one-to-one relevant interaction and make decisions that really help the consumer and the shopper in their decision making. Technology will go with that and is needed. Otherwise, you know, it will not deliver the convenience that is required for delivering a lot of the solutions that the new consumer and the shopper wants as do a new generation of supply logistics. In 2011, Brian and I wrote together with ECR, just like we did the last 6 months. We wrote this framework of the consumer shopper journey. And there are 5 differentiating concepts in this journey. The first thing is that it starts with the consumer. The consumer is consuming, but this connects both for the retailer and for the manufacturer to a vision towards the future. It's a question of quantifying, differentiating value drivers into consumer shopper segments that have a certain logic in behaving through the consumer shopper journey. Looking to where is my buying power now, where is the buying power tomorrow, and what are the differentiating value drivers that will allow me to take part in value creation for my brand or for me as a retailer. The second one is all about the consumption solutions that connect with these value drivers. A value driver like health will connect with consumption solutions that drive health in the mind of the customer, of the consumer, of the shopper. Or if it's more ecology, or if it's convenience, it will drive other solutions. And that is, I think, a differentiating element, that the value drivers connect with consumption solutions that actually lead to differentiation. The third thing is that when we look at these value drivers and what it is that drives the choices of how they consume and what it is they want to buy, we see that the rise of e-commerce, on-the-go shops, local stores, that this is also contained in the where in the journey and delivers the insights for that work. So it's a great framework already for segmentation, for understanding which consumption solutions and connect there with the role of the category, and also where they're going to shop and how they're going to shop and what they're going to shop. So a very important framework to connect, in fact, category management. As I said, 4 implications that drive the focus of this work. More shopper segment work, more shopper segment orientation. Why? Well, because the consumer shopper segmentation connects with differentiating value drivers. It can be quantified, and as such, it delivers the basis for a vision on how you want to create for the future. It is also the basis for learning more about the segment, interactive, giving information, getting information back, and prepare for artificial intelligence. Some people think that a quick programming of machine learning will deliver artificial intelligence. Well, I can tell you no, it's much more complex than that. And the sooner you start with segmentation, the better. For the retailer, as we see in the Rewe case, store by store application is going to be key. Different store formats, different locations, rural, non-rural, channels, e-commerce, local stores, each of them will need to get the translation of what these value drivers mean for consumption solutions, for the shopping missions, why the consumer and the shopper go to these stores, and therefore they need that local customization. In that sense, everything that happens in these stores creates its category management that delivers that differentiation into cross-category solutions, consumption solutions that connect multiple categories like meals, like household solutions, like baby solutions, and so forth. The shopping missions are the golden key between what the consumer wants and where this segment is going to shop. And the growth of all these new channels, e-commerce, local stores, and so forth, makes the whole thing very exciting in terms of how category management connected with the role of the category and the shopping mission will help to prepare the retailer and the manufacturer to win in these areas. So if we look to the journey and we start with the first 2 buckets there, yes, we see the who and the why. The who as the new value driver segments, and then we see the why, and the why connects with solutions. Like, for example, we have here this 30 days of healthy meals for fit food. Obviously, such consumption solution connects with a mission where the role of the category is going to be very important, and obviously where these values have to be assessed as part of the category assessment work. So you see, in the end, everything comes back to the 8 steps again. The role of the category is going to be very important in that meal solution, radiating stronger or less stronger the value driver that comes out of that consumption solution. And then the assessment will connect stronger with, am I really delivering the right thing in the store in terms of assortment, promotion, pricing, and the way it is delivered. In the shopping mission, yes, the where they're going to shop, obviously, the choice here for that segment, consumer shopper segment, what consumption solution they are looking for, it will connect very quickly, either the consumer directly clicking from his tablet or his mobile phone into an e-commerce solution, or he may go to a discounter because his value driver is more price oriented, or he may just go to a local store or to another channel. As you can see, the shopping mission is that key between the value driving consumer shopper segment, the consumption solution, and where that segment is preferring to shop. So there are 3 golden elements in that key. First of all, the retailer equity has to embrace with their strategy these consumer value drivers they want to attract. Every retailer makes 80% of his sales by 25%, and maybe these are only 2 or 3 or 4 of those value drivers that are out there in the market. So you better know it. The second thing is, what is from these segments that make 80% of your sales, what is these segments shopping experience expectation? And do you respond to that better than your competition? And the third thing is, am I doing the right thing on the role of the category that drives the top of mind of that segment when they think about coming to your store for that shopping mission? So as you can see, for example, if it is convenience they are looking for, it may have an impact on the supply strategies of the category, of the supply tactics. And the role of the category there may be, something like, I need it every day, so I want it in front of my door, and I don't want to go to store for that. So very clearly, for me, we are talking integrated brand equity. Brands and retailers, or also private label, time to time, or retail brands, they leverage the value of consumer and shopper insights to make the difference and to build a differentiation. They, in that way, also deliver across an omni-channel structure that captures shopper decision-making through these 3 elements that I explained in the previous 3 charts, whether a shopper will go to an in-store or an online mode, or a local store or a store on the go. And it incorporates along the journey all the elements to clarify why that shopper is behaving the way it does. So integrated brand equity models, and here is an example that we use very often, is 3 blocks basically. The first block is all about understanding the vision of where the buying power is connected with the value drivers. It's the category trends and growth drivers. The second thing is, what are the insights around the journey? What connects them on the consumption solutions, on where they shop and how they want to shop, and map that out on today versus tomorrow, up market, down market. The second block is all about, where should I put my brand in order to win? And there you make an assessment on channels and retailers. And in point 5, you map out where to play to maximize your growth, to end up for every important retailer with a category differentiation plan. In point 7, 8, and 9, you actually translate this in a true collaboration plan, as said in the previous charts, and shopper initiatives to connect your brand to multi-category solutions. Cannot be done without data. And the vision for tomorrow is big data platforms. Big data forms are platform for artificial intelligence tomorrow. And I'm using here an example from a company which I think is a very nice illustration. It's Lumina from Denmark, where you take millions of data from multi-sources, social media, Pinterest, Instagram, social media, household panel, location data from mobile phones. And through algorithms, you find connections between the motive of the need of the consumer segment, the occasion, and the aspirational experience. From these three combinations, you find demand spaces. The bigger ones become growth platforms. So it's a connecting the dots of the consumer, the who, the what, the why, the where, and the when. And that you bring in, you inject it into the shopper consumer journey, where you understand that this becomes a growth platform that you can connect with consumption solutions, and from there build the whole connections around the who. And this is really, I think, the vision to move from mass marketing to mass customization to artificial intelligence. And the way to do it is really to go to a connecting the dots of the consumer and the shopper. And that's really something I think to look into the book, into the publication, because I think this is a very important one. Technology obviously leads us to capture a lot of this aspiration in the journey. Yes, machine learning and virtual experience, virtual store experience can capture, how a certain value driver on a higher aspiration of the consumer beside the primary aspiration, like I'm hungry, I want to eat, but do I want to eat healthy, or do I want to stay fit, or do I want to buy ecological products? How do people actually behave in the store or on the e-commerce platform? And learn from experience platforms to see how consumers behave. Robotics in production, but also in logistics to assemble the online order delivery basket are elements that will speed up, the way to build convenience and faster delivery to the consumer and the shopper. The development of mobile intelligence from apps has a two-direction meaning. First of all, it will capture behavior, but also delivers information. To the example from Carrefour, in one of the cases in our publication, where an app provides to the consumer and the shopper the food category quality, Carrefour's food provenance program. So where is the meat coming? Which farmer delivered it? Did the animal grow up in a safe environment? Was it well treated, etc., etc.? But the way the consumer shopper responds by purchasing the product and responding to eventual questions in the app also gives back learning to the retailer. And from there, artificial intelligence can be born. Same with image recognition. To the right, you see a camera that can connect through image recognition to which segment that consumer belongs and how she looks to the shelf, picks up products, and learn from there what the purchase decision tree is, or what type of information she is looking for in that work. Automatically going with this convenience and all that, we're talking also the next generation of supply logistics. Quite a revolution is coming on that one. We all know from the time that the consumer becomes a shopper, goes to a store, and the store is delivered by a supplier. That's the way it has been going for 30 years. Today, the consumer is at home or she's in the street, and she decides to buy online, and like that, she doesn't go to a store anymore. She just directly is in a shopping interface. And separate with that is then a logistical platform that delivers this at home. So the impact of this radical revolution in how products come to the consumer has brought a multiplication of assortment variety. And I think you all know, if you look to Amazon, over 50 million SKUs compared to 40,000 in a hypermarket or 10,000 in a supermarket. The opportunity for increased local and innovative producers to find online shop platforms. So you are a local producer, and you don't need that big Procter & Gamble or Unilever network to find your retailers. You just go to a local online, and basically that one becomes the interface. And separately from that, that's the third one, the logistics to bring it can be independent from the web shop or from the supplier. You know, today, very often when you make an order at Amazon, there are 5 trucks ending up in front of your door. I don't think that's very sustainable. What will happen is that, you know, these multi-delivery vans will be replaced by a structure of distribution centers that locally consolidate the online commands per street, per address, that then ecologically are delivered in front of your door. Because I think ecologically, cities will not allow these 5 trucks to come in front of every door 5 times per week. This will be restructured. It will be a separate business. These DC structures will come, and that is, in my view, a new way that logistics probably will develop to the future. The same thing for packaging. You know, when we're thinking about packaging, it's very much in the brand way. You know, the brand, you know, wants to create a nice packaging, but you know, in the new world of e-commerce, we're talking about keywords, we're talking about digital representation on the web, we're talking about information that is on the product that has to be seen. We're talking about recommendation and evaluation. We're talking about availability of the brand on the website, how many variants of your product, how many package size are there, and also what is the retailer algorithm to lead the consumer shopper to your product in the right way or to the right consumer shopper solution. So brand presence, you know, where packaging was always the way to say, will my brand be recognized? There are new elements in the game there. And I think this is also bringing quite a revolution in the logistics and the way to actually deliver at home, and maybe at some point neutralize a lot of the packagings to avoid plastic and so on. So quite a revolution coming. And I think there are some recommendations that I can give for manufacturers. It's just a grip out of the publication, and I invite you kindly to look more in detail to that. But I hope at least I have convinced you that a deep understanding of consumer shoppers, their value drivers, and the behavior across all channels, not only the channel where you are active, becomes a key element in the vision of how your business will go to in the future and what you need to do to fix this. Leverage these insights to actually work category solutions that can be cross-category, but that are basically a solution for a segment and that connects with the value drivers. And that is where the innovation brings collaboration also. And that's quite an important one. A third very important one is please prepare for the one-to-one interaction with the consumer. You know, it will be, yes, privacy and permission. It will be preference driven most of the time. It will be in the proximity where the purchase has to act, and it will be a promotion right in time. And it's this this more pertinent, this more relevant proposition can only come if you go from mass marketing to mass customization and get into a learning process to personalize the one-to-one offer to then go to artificial intelligence. Start with it now. You need several years to build it up. Develop a multi-source data intelligence master plan. You know, connect the dots is not something you do overnight. You know, if you see how the big Amazons work 15 years to create all that learning, and then we see in our consulting cases how they have a systemic advantage by having done this, it's really an important element to appoint a very high-level person to set up an architecture to connect all these data and to work it out. Apart from, and that's also a very important one, you know, for retailers, discounters, and so on, when you look at the merchandising in the store, the shopper marketing has to bring in the aspirational dimension when we're talking promotions. It's no longer price only for many segments. The value drivers prove us that sometimes there's more than price. And that is all about the marketing that has to be connected with what you communicate in the store and how you do it and the assortment that you bring there. Co-invest in that sense with the manufacturers. Bring the investment behind the brand in the store when the segments that the brand is after connects with the segments that make 80% of your retailer stores. For manufacturers, it's the mirror of all this work. So it starts with please build your category vision and connect with quantified consumer shopper segment category vision. with quantified consumer shopper segments, to understand where is the future buying power, where is current buying power, up market, down market, where am I with my brand, am I responding to this in the right way? Develop the right communication strategies in every touch point along the journey, because it drastically changed. The above the line, yes. Below the line, there's social media, there's a lot of new tricks in the book, and obviously, you know, the new collaborations around are all about understanding how brand segments connect with retailer segments. So you can use probably a lot of the retailers' communication tools that they have in the touch points when the shopping occasion is actually happening, and that these allow new alliances in the negotiation, in the collaborative plan also, to use these new media together and to build a story, to build co-equity, and gain category management insights in the journey to win versus key competition and to build your differentiation. So the journey as a key enabler. And connected with the big data, please do the same. You saw the connected dots for the consumer. I think that's a major challenge for the brand, is to make sure that, you know, there is on-the-go trend finding of what are the new value drivers, bring growth platforms to life within the retailer in the collaboration plan. I think these are the key elements that I would like to share. Brian, can I hand over back to you for managing the times of crisis?
You can, Luke. Thank you, Luke. Fantastic vision, and definitely a compelling view of the phase we're moving into rapidly, which is the integration of consumer and shopper marketing. So thank you so much. Just a few words. One of the papers in the report deals with the application of category management to the current COVID-19 pandemic opportunity. You know, we had a unique opportunity because COVID obviously broke during the time that we were putting the report together, and we felt it was absolutely appropriate to really to step back and say, okay, how would category management help address both the opportunities as well as the challenges and threats that are being posed by this unfortunate global pandemic? So just a few words on this, because the paper in the report is worth reading, because it does get us to, I think about what you know, what really has COVID, you know, what are those changes, and how should we adjust our business methods to make sure we don't either overreact or underreact to the COVID situation. Now, clearly, we know that significant changes have occurred and will occur, and will continue to influence consumer and shopper behavior, consumer and shopper values. Our basic proposition is that category management principles, as David Chancho said earlier, gives us a unique ability to address the situation, because it forces us to a back to basics approach. Now, the most obvious learnings, which has always been a key principle of category management that came out of COVID, is that effective collaboration is absolutely essential. And we need to take that to the next level, because the COVID situation clearly has shown that ineffective collaboration absolutely makes adjusting to these new conditions, if not impossible, extremely difficult. Now we know, and this was some knowledge that David Chancho brought to the project through the research work that dunnhumby does. There's a number of impacts on consumers and shoppers that COVID has brought. Increased emphasis on value, more price sensitivity, more focus on local shopping, changes in formats and channels for where people shop, increase in food at home, more cooking, more eating at home, elevated interest in personal and societal well-being. Now, some of these changes will be short-term. Others, and probably most of them, are going to have long-term impacts on consumers and shoppers. Now, the good news is that category management has always given us a model to go back to basics, to say, how do these changes in consumer and shopper aspirations, behavior, and values, how do we then bring them in and adapt them through the steps of the category management? And again, this is a roadmap for how we address the challenges that the new environment poses. So, for example, back to basics, we need to review category definitions and category structures because we know we have new consumer values. Some categories may need to be redefined. Others, because consumers have new value drivers, the sequence of decision attributes may change. We need to revise category roles because clearly some categories have become a lot more important to people. They may have been routine role categories in the past. They're now more like destination categories, given the changing consumer needs and demands. We need to look at different scorecard measures, particularly the operational measures of out of stocks, inventory levels. They need to become more, they need to be added and ensure that they're on our scorecards, and so on and so forth. So the basic message that I want to leave here is that category management gives us a back to basics model for how we then incorporate and adjust and react to the changes that are happening on the consumer and shopper as a result of the COVID situation. So that's the basic message. Now, in the report, there's a very in the report there's a nice article that Dave Chancho, Claudio Chapsky of Brazil, and myself put together that'll give you more details. But I wanted to just draw your attention to the fact that that article is in the report, and I think it does provide some timely advice. Declan.
Brian, Luke, that's a brilliant insight. You can see, everybody who's listening to us, the challenge which we had with this review after producing 200 pages combined with insight and case studies, how to bring it to life in manageable bite-sized pieces. One of the objectives of today was to go in a little bit in depth in two of the main articles: category management, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and managing in times of crisis. So hopefully Brian and Luke have brought you through that in some regard, and I suggest whetted your appetite to actually study the papers within the publication, because they're very pertinent, they're very timely, and especially when this pandemic crisis broke while we were editing the review, it just illustrated how every marketplace around the world was probably plus or minus 2 to 3 weeks away from each other in terms of dealing with the crisis and its evolution. Undoubtedly, when Brian talks about shifts in categories, changes in lifestyles and shopper behavior, we aren't going to get into a settled pattern of predicted shopper behavior, I would suggest, until after Christmas 2021. And one of the things we can benefit from by establishing a global category management network for the next year is really to track how these categories shift, come back to normal or not, and how lifestyle and behaviors shift. I'm only going to go through, we have a little bit to go, maybe about another 10-15 minutes. I'm only going to go through possibly one slide each for the other presentations, and Brian is going to give us a little bit of overview of the company case studies. As I said, we wanted to go into a little bit of depth with Brian and Luke's papers today. Ken Hughes, many of you will know, is a great friend of ECR and has presented at many ECR conferences around the world, both regional and local. And as Luke alluded to, shopper marketing is a key complementary element to shopper missions and the consumer and shopper journey. Ken has put forward an article, The Social Science of Shopper Marketing, applying 4 key tools of shopper science: sociology, behavioral economics, psychology, and cyber behavioralism, to better understand the consumer and shopper value drivers and how to activate behavior based on these drivers. And as always, Ken's articles are very well worth a read. And then we've got 3 really good articles coming from 3 ECR communities, 3 ECR national associations. We're not going to choose, we haven't chosen today to go into them in depth, really just to highlight that they are there. And the first one comes from GS1 Germany on total store optimization, which is based in shopper studies. The report provides a total store framework for managing individual categories to best meet the needs of shoppers and create differentiation for retailers. 10 dimensions for total store optimization are identified. The second one comes from the Institute of Commerce, which is ECR France, and looks at the most efficient functionalities to improve user experience on food e-retail websites. And this is a joint retailer manufacturer work group which defined the requirements for an effective retailer online shopping website to deliver the best shopper experience and to maximize conversion rates. And which is typical of a lot of ECR projects, in that you have a retailer manufacturer work group that make recommendations. And in this case, it was a scorecard of KPIs to measure the effectiveness of retailer online shopping websites was developed. So really great piece of work coming from Germany and France, and added to by what we thought was a great piece from GS1 ECR Italy on omni-channel category management, which investigates, let's move from product categories to shopper needs and wants categories, which is a fundamental shift here. Another joint retailer manufacturer work group developed an omni-channel approach for applying category management principles and processes. The key proposition here was to view categories as shopper needs and wants categories and not just product categories. So I'd really strongly recommend having a look at those 3 ECR community reports. Nonetheless, they will figure in the new year. I'll come back to that at the end of today's webinar, when we will announce 3 dates for the next 3 webinars, and each of them will get pride in place there. Brian, we just wanted to finish off today by looking at the current practices in category management. And I know you've prepared a few notes on each of these.
Yes, without a doubt, one of the, sorry, that's me. One of the most important components of the report and of the whole project was to capture examples of current practices of category management from around the world. And we were very, very fortunate to, with the help of the local ECR organizations, with the help of some of our sponsor companies, we were able to put together what I think is a phenomenal set of case studies that can be used, I think, to understand the current practices in this space. And the way we thought about these cases was that if you look ahead, you know, what are going to be some of the key areas in the future that category management is going to make major contributions to? And we had these 6. You know, redefining categories. I mean, we've said many times, Luke and myself and others, that, you know, we're in a period of major changes in consumer habits, lifestyles, expectations. Categories are being redefined to address these opportunities, and that's going to be a major driver in the future of how category management is used and deployed. Secondly, integrating category management into the broader consumer and shopper journey construct, as Luke described. This is going to be the key to putting category management in a broader setting and seeing how its value can be capitalized on in a more complete consumer and shopper journey framework. Next, applying category management in the e-commerce channels, obviously, not just in store anymore. It has to be this omni-channel thing. So that's going to be a major application area in the years to come. Joint brand building collaboration between retailers and manufacturers, smarter collaboration, more based on joint brand equity building, as Luke explained. Using comprehensive multi-source consumer and shopper data enabled by artificial intelligence and related technologies to identify opportunities within categories and across categories that can be exploited with category management methods. And then lastly, expanding category management to other channels and to other markets around the world. So what we tried to do was get cases that reflected one or more of these areas. So what I'll do is I won't go through these in great detail, but for example, in redefining categories to reflect these new habits and expectations, we had some wonderful cases from Brazil, from Italy, France, and United Arab Emirates, Ireland, Greece, France. We had contributions from a number of companies, retailers and manufacturers that helped put these cases together. They're in the report, and we're going to be utilizing these cases as examples as we move forward with the ongoing webinar series. So this was some of the cases that were really more focused on the redefinition of categories to reflect these new consumer needs. Here's some cases that really started to address the issue of integrating category management into this broader consumer and shopper journey framework. So we had a number of cases that really embraced and began to take steps in this particular direction of integration. And again, very exciting and I think very fruitful avenue of development for category management. Next, applying category management to e-commerce channels. We had some terrific contributions from France, from the US, from Greece, in terms of examples of how category management is now being used specifically to address category opportunities in e-commerce channels. Joint brand building between retailers and management, upgraded collaborative practices. We had, again, several cases here that really captured that, including cases from Italy, dunnhumby with Dave Chancho's great contribution, in Canada in Metro, and so on. And then soft beverages with the help of Wilhelm's company, the work they did with Coke and Rewe in Germany on individual store level category management was absolutely fantastic. Secondly, comprehensive databases, starting to bring in these broader databases of consumers and shoppers into the category management application. We had a number of cases that really started to show the potential of doing this. The Brazilian drugstore case, Raia Drogasil, with dunnhumby's help, IBM provided a wonderful application of artificial intelligence in the US dairy category project. And then our sponsor, Yagura, working with Jack Links, began to show us how these broader databases can be applied to addressing opportunities in that category. And then lastly, some wonderful cases looking at the expansion of category management globally. A fantastic case from China in fresh fruit with tremendous results. I think the first, one of the really first applications of fully fledged category management that I've seen from China, and excellent work. Infant nutrition in the drug channel in Brazil, and then again the work that dunnhumby has led with Brazilian drugstore channel. So we have some fantastic cases that we're going to get into more detail in the webinars. But I wanted just to kind of introduce the structure, why we chose cases, how we chose cases, the areas of focus for different cases. And I think we're all very, very pleased with how the mix of cases turned out. And again, you'll find them documented in detail in the report. So please reference that. So just a few closing thoughts from me. Having taken the first baby steps in this almost, in fact, over 30 years ago, makes me feel old. There's no question that the principles of category management today are as relevant as ever. The back to basics approach of category management helps us adapt to changes. It's done it over the last 30 years. It's continuing to do it in the future. And that's the power of the process. It's a simple back to basics process that forces us to focus on the consumer and shopper and make decisions and allocate resources in a much more logical and rational manner. Changes will continue to be shaped. There's no doubt about it. The three circles. Going forward, the next wave is already being shaped by a combination of shopper, competition, and technological developments, as Luke pointed out. And then lastly, if we had to bet on one of those to have more influence, I think we would say that technology is going to probably have a disproportionate impact, particularly as we extract the value through artificial intelligence of these broadened multi-source databases. So I think there's some of the thoughts I'd leave you at the end here. And at this point, Declan, I'll hand over to you to conclude.
Brian, thanks so much. Not only have you provided us with a huge amount of information to digest, but it's just whetting the appetite in terms of what to do next. And I think that's why we felt it appropriate to support the release of this review with today's webinar, and then talk about what's next. Because I don't know about you, and you know, Brian, Luke, and I spent many hours on web calls debating and discussing all the components of this review. But it became clear to us that this review should be the start of something rather than an end point. So today's webinar bring it to life. But you know, to focus on different aspects of the review in more manageable bite-sized chunks, to aid circulation and in-depth understanding. And we think to create a global network of category managers going forward. We will host 3 webinars scheduled for January, February and March, and the dates which you see there. And in these 3 webinars, as Brian suggested, we will ask some of the companies who've made contributions to actually present their case studies in a little bit more detail and see if we can bring it to a little bit of life. So great if you have actually read the pieces in the review beforehand, but no fear if you haven't. We want people to join those webinars, and so that we can start discussing and debating all the impacts of all the different strands of category management and as they apply going forward. We think these are the first steps in establishing a global network to share category management knowledge and experience, to attract the latest relevant technologies, focus on effective collaboration, and to provide a forum for discussion, debate, and learning. And as you know, us all predicting what lies in store for 2021, I know it's going to be a lot of change. These shifts in categories, will they come back? Will they stay shifted? The changes in consumer and shopper behavior and the changes in lifestyle, and how they will move about over the next year, I think is worthwhile of discussion and worthwhile to see how different companies and sectors around the world are dealing with it. I want to really thank everyone for joining us today. We had about 150 people online. So far, the review has been downloaded in 42 countries by over 700 people from the site, but I think it's been circulated a little more than that. As I say, today is the first of our webinars, and getting today, not only do I owe heartfelt thanks to Brian and to Luke to their contribution, but significantly to Birgit, Francoise and Antonella from ECR Communities, to David and dunnhumby, Claudio in Brazil and Shay in ECR Community. So thanks very much for your significant contribution in getting this review over the line. And as I say today for everybody, this hopefully is just the first step. Hopefully we will establish more of a category management network going forward. Now my view is we've gone a little bit over time. I propose that we don't really take questions today, although I'm happy to field any if you want to send them in to me, and I can pass them on. But I look forward to seeing you all at our next webinar in January and hopefully joining us in February and March. Any questions about ECR Community, please feel free to contact Thomas, Shay or I, and I shall leave it there and bid you good evening and hope you have a very good day. Thank you and goodbye.
Hello?
Hello?
Ah, Brian, okay. All right.